This is the one strategy that can more than triple your restaurant's net profits. So, when I'm working with clients, here's what we're looking at doing. We want to take their business and we want to add more revenue to it, but we want to add more profit to it as well, right? So here's the way that you need to look at your business, and here's the concept that you need to understand that will drastically change the way you think about your profitability. So for a business that has, say, 60% prime costs, which is food and labor combined, and that has rent of about, say, $5,000 a month, and has some other fixed expenses, 1,000 for power, you've got a gas bill, other things like that. So when you add those together, that will generally give you a break-even point of somewhere around $30,000, $35,000. So in other words, with those fixed expenses and that prime cost, those variable costs, you need to hit about $35,000 in sales to break even. But here's the important part of that. Once you hit that break-even point, after that, you only have to pay your variable expenses or your prime costs, right? So that means every dollar that you bring in above that break even point is 40% net profit, right? So that means if you're doing $40,000 in sales and your break even is, 35,000, you're not really making a ton of money. It's a couple grand at the end of the month. It's not nothing to write home about, right? But all of a sudden, you take that same business and you do 80 grand in sales. All of a sudden, what you're looking at there is a much larger profit. We're talking 15 grand in profit. We're talking a significant, just with that difference in revenue, there's going to be a massive and disproportionate impact on your bottom line. So when we worked with one of our clients, here's the strategy that we employed. So he already had a good business. He was doing something like, 600, 700 a year or something like that. And everything was great. He was still turning a profit, but he wasn't really as profitable as what he wanted to be. And so what we had to explain to him was like, sure, you've got a good lunch service, you've got a good dinner service, that's great. So now what can we do to add to your business? So things that we explored were actually getting his food truck, because he had a food truck out, but it really wasn't operating. He didn't really use it much. And so I told him, I'm like, you're already paying the bulk of the expenses, right? Like your food truck's already paid for. There's no, not that many extra expenses that are going into it. So if we were able to get that out there and we were able to do an extra $250,000 in revenue by using that food truck for the summer season, that's not just going to add 250 in revenue. What that's actually going to add is 125,000 to your net profit. So his net profit at the time actually wasn't that huge. And so all of a sudden we're talking about, hey, we'll just add this, nominal amount of revenue, because he was already doing like 700. So like it wasn't, like it's an increase, but it's not a massive increase. It's not like we had to double his sales. But by adding in that 250 in revenue, we were able to add in over 100 grand in net profit. And so what I like to say is that once you get to your break even point, it's like small hinges swing big doors. So every incremental amount of revenue you can add on top of that, that's where the profit is. So going from that 700 to 900, massively profitable. That's where your profits double, triple, or more. Get up to $1 million, same thing. So when I'm looking at businesses, what we're trying to do is take a look at, okay, so we know our fundamentals are solid, your costs are in control, great, you're already turning a profit, great. So now, how do we massively impact your profit? And what we try and do is find little things that we can add on to the business that will be an additional revenue source, specifically in times that don't already impact what your general services are. So here's an example. Maybe you're looking at doing some catering. Catering, and when I say this, I don't mean actual like full service catering where you're, catering a wedding. I mean, what about the office down the street? What if you're able to take in some food that you can bring there and drop off? You can make it prior to your lunch service, right? And then drop it off. And all of a sudden, if you can have a few of those a day, an extra $1,000 a day is an extra 360 grand per year in revenue, right? And so all of a sudden that could actually be 150 in profit, right? So those are the things that will make sense. Anything you can add on to your existing business to drive a little bit of that incremental revenue will have a disproportionate change in your bottom line. So that's what I like to explain. And that is literally the strategy that you can use to triple your restaurant's profit or more. Once you hit your break-even point, just remember, adding that incremental revenue without adding more fixed costs is the way to do it. Most people think they need to add more locations and more locations, which can be good, but I would rather see you take your time and effort and focus in on making your one location extremely profitable and then branching out to more locations. So find something that you can add on to your business without disrupting your main service and watch the profits roll in over the next 6 to 12 months. All right, guys, I'm Andrew from Ownershift. We help restaurant owners add in more sales, more profits, and more freedom with their time. If you have any questions, let me know, but thanks for watching, and I hope this is helpful.